machines Pop used to watch, only the tape is blank in some places. Mom says I'm just blocking it out. She says that sometimes, if things get too crazy, a hidden part of our brain takes over in order to protect us. Protect us from what? When I ask, she just rubs her necklace, the one with the tiny pictures of me and Jack. Then she doesn't really want to talk much anymore. I miss Pop so much. I miss Jackie too. But he was so little, I don't remember him the way I remember Pop. He used to call me Apple. He called Jack Bean. I think it was because Jack was so small. Mom just calls me Abby unless she gets mad. Then she calls me Abigail. She called Jack Jackson. Dad used to call us Lightning and Thunder, but I'm not sure which was which. I guess it doesn't matter anymore. That's all stuff from the before times. Things are a lot different now. We live out in the world. Today's a work day. Mom and me and some of the others are going into the woods to look for food. If we get lucky, maybe we can find some berries. If not, there's always mushrooms. After lunch, Mom said we have to go fishing, which sucks. I hate fishing. I hate the worms. Most of all, I hate the waiting. Sitting and waiting for some dumb fish to come along and eat a gross worm just so we can eat the fish. Super sucks. Still, no matter how sucky fishing is, it's better than going with the men. Sometimes they go out, but not all of them come back. Most days they go out and burn stuff. Buildings, mostly. Anything with walls, windows, and a roof was what Dad used to say. The burning part was easy, I guess, except Dad stunk like smoke for days after. But sometimes, when there was an emergency or if they found a place where there was useful stuff we need, they had to go in. That's something I would never do. We don't go in there anymore. Not in houses. I guess I should start at the beginning. It was summer. That much I remember because it was super hot. Dad called it an anomaly, which I thought was a funny sounding word. Anomaly. It made me think of the girls from school. Anna and Molly. I wonder what happened to them. Jackie had just turned 4 and Pop and Nana were mad because we had picked the hottest day of the year to go camping. Well, Nana was mad. Every time Nana complained, Pop would say, "It was hotter than this in Nam," and bang his fist on the table. Nam must have been really hot, wherever it was. I think it was evening. Yeah, I remember that. It was after dinner. Pop was trying to find his oldies station on the radio, and Jack was sleeping next to Dad. My eyes are doing that droopy thing they do, like when you're trying not to fall asleep and the more you try, the more they want to close. Nana was singing and the radio just cuts out. Nana doesn't hear so well, so she kept singing for a while. Nana doesn't sing so good either. But then there's this guy who comes on the radio, and I remember thinking, wow, he sounds really scared. And he's breathing all fast and stuff, like he just ran a race or something. But then he's crying and stuff too. Pop made Nana stop singing, and now my eyes aren't doing the droopy thing anymore because Mom and Dad and even Pop all have the exact same look on their face. And it's making me kind of scared. Dad turned the radio up, and now the guy on the radio is talking, really fast about how the police need to come to the station and that something was there. And I remember a lady screaming in the background. Then a whole lot of people screaming and noise, and Mom is covering Jackie's ears, and Pop says, "Jesus fucking Christ," which normally Nana would have gone nuts on him for. Not just for cursing and taking the Lord's name, but for saying it out loud in front of me and Jack. That had never happened before. But Nana just kept staring at the radio. And for some reason that scared me more than anything else. And even the radio guy is saying curse words, and some of them I knew, but some of them I didn't. And then there was this sound of breaking glass, and then this ripping sound. I guess it was like ripping. Like when Dad tears up bed sheets to use in the garage. Only if they were wet. That kind of ripping sound. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that was the radio guy, because we never heard him again. Jackie was crying because Mom was holding him too tight, and Dad was standing and having a cigarette. And it got quiet, and all you could hear was Nana praying. But on the radio, there's this breathing sound, kind of like how the neighbor's mastiff sounds when you throw the ball for him a lot. Only this sounds a lot bigger than the neighbor's mastiff. And then this lady starts screaming in the background, and I'm not sure what happened to her because that's when Mom turned off the radio. Mom put Jack to bed, and Dad had another cigarette. And even Pop-Pop had one, and Nana went and got her Bible from her stuff and sat by the fire reading it. I asked Dad what happened, and he said he didn't know. Dad was trying to use his phone but couldn't get any bars. But Pop-Pop said we weren't the only ones listening, so Dad shouldn't feel bad. Pop-Pop said maybe it was a joke and said something about some old radio show guy named Hortson Wells, and Dad said, "What about the cursing?" And Pop-Pop kind of thought about it for a minute and just nodded. It wasn't really late. Not really. Pop-Pop was messing with the radio again, and Dad was like, "Jazz?" But then Pop-Pop turned the radio back on and changed the channel. And every channel is the same. Either someone is screaming and crying like the first guy, or all you could hear was the sound of that big dog type of breathing, or you could hear him moving around on the busted glass and stuff in the station. The breathing sound scared me the most. Finally, Pop-Pop turned off the radio and asked for another cigarette. In the morning, we packed up and went home. Dad kept wanting to turn the car radio on to check the news, but Mom wouldn't let him. Nana said it looked like everyone in the world was outside, but Pop-Pop said that if that was true, why aren't there a lot more of them? Which for some reason made me start to think of that wet ribbing sound. I remember Nana praying really hard when we passed the hospital because there were a lot of people standing outside, screaming and yelling. A bunch of people were sitting on the lawn. Most of them were crying. Praying and crying. There was a whole lot of that. So finally, we get back to our neighborhood and it's like a block party or something, but nobody is smiling or having a good time. Some of the houses were burned down, but ours was still there, and a bunch of men from the neighborhood came and talked to Dad and Mom while me and Nana and Jack wait in the car. Pop-Pop was asleep and Jack was too. Our neighbor, Mr. Beckman, was holding a shotgun. He was talking really serious, like for a while, and Mom starts crying and then Dad hugs Mr. Beckman. It was weird because Dad kept pointing to our house, all important and stuff, but the other guys were like, "No," and just kept shaking their heads. Eventually, Mom and Dad came and got back in the car, and Mom was still crying a little bit. But Dad just sat there with his hands on the steering wheel thing and just stared at our house. That was the first time I saw one of them. It had been sitting there in my bedroom window, looking down at us the whole time. It was a lot bigger than it sounded like on the radio, and it for sure wasn't a dog. And it had red eyes. Those are really the only things I remember. Things got okay for a while, but then they got really bad. I don't remember Jack dying. He had been sick before it got cold, but I don't remember how it all went. Pop-Pop said I was in shock, but I thought that was silly because we didn't even use electricity anymore. And Mom slept a lot and cried a lot more. I think it was winter. I think I remember being cold, like really, really cold type cold. That was when I learned what the word starving meant. When you're hungry enough to eat your neighbor, was how Pop-Pop put it. I think Dad and some of the guys from the neighborhood did something with the building. I think it was a food and stuff building. I don't know, but they were all scared now, like family scared, and some of them had guns. Most of them really, but when they came back, most of them were busted up real bad and stuff. Mr. Beckman was one of those guys who went out and never came back, but I don't know really. Like I said, the tape is blank in spots. The first spring wasn't so bad. I guess they had got enough stuff for us to leave, and that's when we made the big trip south that everyone had been talking about all winter. I asked Mom when we'd stop walking, and she'd said, once we reached the ocean, which sounded okay at first, because I had never seen an ocean and figured it would be worth it. But after a while, the walking part gets on your nerves. I remember bits and pieces of stuff. Like this one time, I was sitting next to this kid named Alejandro on top of his dad's big rig with a bunch of other people. And we were looking back out over the highway, and it was like this carpet, of faces. Like just people as far as you can see. And me and Alejandro were teaching each other how to sing. He's got the whole world in his hands. But he was teaching me how to sing it in Spanish, and I'm trying to teach it to him in English. And the whole thing was funny because we kept messing up and making each other laugh. But we kept trying. Then this old lady next to Alejandro starts to sing it in Spanish, and then these two kids start to sing it in English. And then some Asian guy starts to sing it. Then the people on the road start to sing it. And I swear for a while, it seemed like the whole world was singing it. Me and Alejandro held hands, but I didn't tell Mom. After a while, you learn to stop looking at them. Buildings, I mean. Especially during the daytime, when you could see in. It was always the same thing. Every window would have those same red eyes staring back. The bigger the window, the more sets of eyes. At night, all they were was a big old shadow in the eyes. You could see 'em, but not see 'em, you know? During the day, just looking at the buildings sucked. Everyone hated it. Every once in a while, someone would freak out about 'em staring out the windows at us all the time, and fire a shot at one of them, but it never worked. They're too fast. You can't hit 'em, duh. Nobody ever hits 'em. Okay, like maybe one person I've seen hit one, but he didn't kill it. So, whatever. But then these fucking nutjob soldier boy wannabes, as Pop Pop called them, got the idea to start burning buildings down as we passed by. Which was no big deal for a while, until one of the buildings blew up and killed a bunch of people. So Pop Pop got real mad and went and screamed at a bunch of these guys and said some stuff about that Nom place again. And then a bunch of other guys showed up, and they all had the same brown clothes on. For a while, there was a ton of yelling and guys with guns and stuff, and Pop Pop standing right in the middle of it. And then it all stopped and they walked away from each other. Now they only burn stuff behind the convoy. Whatever that means. I try not to think about what they look like too much, because it makes me wonder about that guy on the radio and the wet ripping sound, and then I get bad dreams. Sometimes, you just can't help it though. Like this one time, I fell asleep on top of Alejandro's dad's big rig because it was night and we had been going nonstop all day. And when I fell asleep, it was still sort of country-like around us, farms kind of stuff. I was watching the stars, and every once in a while they would disappear behind a tree. And you don't get big trees like that in the city, which is what I was thinking when I fell asleep. But when I woke up, we were passing through a small town, and I remember, first thing I saw, think about it. You're just waking up, and you don't know where you are, so you don't know you're in a city, so when you look up and right there, behind the glass, only 20 feet away, looking you in the eyes in broad daylight, you can't help it, and it sucks, because then you scream and the whole convoy stops and everyone freaks out. Till they find out it was just you were scared and you'd scream too, so don't even laugh. Alejandro laughed, but then his tia yelled at him real good, and he came back and said sorry. Yeah, you learn real quick not to look at buildings. Most people on the big trip south just look down a lot, especially when we pass through cities and stuff. Or like Alejandro's dad does. He just looks ahead. Never right, never left, just forward, he says. I remember the prison. That was when we lost Pop Pop. Some of the prisoners had seen us all going by and had screamed and waved flags for help. I guess they were still alive because they were behind bars, Dad said, which didn't make sense to me until Nana said, in their cages. Which was weird because only animals lived in cages, I said. She said exactly, and went back to reading her Bible. I guess we weren't the only ones to find out what starving meant. But Pop Pop and Dad and a bunch of other men had this big meeting about what to do about these prison guys. Dad and Pop Pop and some of the others wanted to help them. But Mom got mad at Dad and Pop Pop, but especially Dad, and said things like losing Jack was more than enough and what the fuck is wrong with you, which made Dad look sad. When he was sad like that, I swear he looked just like Jackie. So, Pop-Pop and Dad and these other guys all went out to the prison, and we waited for a long time, and after a while, they came back to get a truck, because they were going to pull the bars off one of the windows so the prisoners could climb out. That's how they made it sound, anyway. When they brought Pop-Pop back, he was still alive. Nana stayed next to him in the back of Alejandro's dad's big rig. In the morning, when she came out, I could tell she had been crying. She dropped her Bible by the side of the road and didn't want it back when I tried to bring it to her. Dad and Alejandro's father buried Pop-Pop that afternoon. I heard Dad say something about one of the chains broke loose and a part got flung off. They got 9 people out of the prison. I didn't think it was a fair trade. I remember hearing the ocean for the first time. For a second, I thought it sounded like they were coming for us. Like they'd all finally broken through the windows and doors and come roaring out into the world after us. I covered my ears and closed my eyes, and waited, but nothing happened. Alejandro's Tia laughed a little bit, but then she hugged me and pointed to it so I could see it. Even though it was raining, the ocean was this crazy blue that made me think of Jack's eyes.